So today's question comes from Verbadell IDC. They're just someone new to woodworking, hand-tool woodworking, and what tools would they recommend when first getting started? Well, I think this is a great question. I have covered this in a previous video, so do check that link out below if you're interested in that, but we're going to run through the beginner set here today in quite a concise video, so there you go. So when it comes to woodworking, whether it's power tool woodworking, hand tool woodworking, marking and layout is vital. Now, you want to make sure that you've got accurate marking and layout tools, because without that, you're going to get frustrated and none of your joinery is going to work, your cuts are going to be off and everything like that. So it is vital that you have decent marking and layout tools. So to start with, you need something to measure. Now, a tape measure is a good option. A hardware tape measure will get you started at least measuring for length. Now, although they're not the most accurate, if you're doing all your measurements with this, they're all going to be the same, so your proportions should not go out. This one happens to be a floppy flat-backed one from FastCap, which I use at the bench, but you know, you don't have to get one of these, just a hardware one will do. Next, we obviously need something to mark our timber. A pencil. I like the 2B pencils if you can get them. You can use mechanical pencils a lot, but I just prefer the standard, just basic pencil, and along with that, you know, an eraser and a sharpener work quite well as well. Although you can sharpen these using a knife or a chisel. Next is a mark out knife or a marking knife. This one is just a very basic standard double beveled knife that you can pick up all over the place. This one happens to be a Swan & Morton one with their blade, which is a scalpel type. Now, that's not vital. These are not the cheapest to get, at least here in Australia, so any double beveled knife will do as a marking and layout knife, as long as it's fairly thin. You don't want it too thick. Other option is this arrow style here, which has a flat back and you run both sides. I don't like these much, and so I prefer, and you'll see me using the double bevel ones, and that's what I use. Next, we want to cut across boards and we want it to be accurate, so we need a square to mark out joinery, shoulders and the like. You can go for a cheaper style like this, which is a vintage style, which has been squared to ensure it's square. You can use the plastic hardware ones, or a more expensive combination one like this that I'll get to on in a sec. But a square is completely useless to you unless it is actually square, and so I will leave the video down below for how you actually check them to be square and square them up. Next, along with that, a ruler for doing some smaller markouts and layouts is, I think, vital. Now, if you do want to spend a little bit more and get a combination style square like this, these are actually good. They're a lot more expensive. This one happens to be an eye gauging one, which is not the most expensive, but once again, you do need to be able to square them up. And this one does do other things, like you can do depths checking and other things like that. This one actually happens to have the square and the 45 on it, and it also has a ruler marking on here, so if you did have this, you wouldn't really need a cheap and expensive ruler, but you've probably already got a cheap and expensive stainless steel ruler anyway, and so that is another option, but not a necessity. The other thing that I don't think you really need as a beginner starting out is marking gauges, the wheel style, pin style. You can, if you want to, you've seen them on YouTube videos and whatnot and you want to use them, but I think you're better off sticking to the squares and rulers for doing a mark out and layout rather than marking gauges, because marking gauges have their own issues that you might not be aware of in themselves, and so I don't think you need to spend the extra money on these. Before I got a marking gauge, I would go ahead and buy a combination square like the eye gauging one. That is just me, but yeah. So the next thing we need to do is use chisels to do our joinery, clean up shoulders and all that. And so when it comes to chisels, I'm a little bit on the fence as to which way is the best to go. I think actually putting together a set yourself might be the best way to go. You can get like a 45mm around a 20 mil, a 15 mil, and a 10 mil, and I think that makes a great little set. Ideally, you just need one smaller chisel and one larger chisel. This set here is a set from Lubin. It's a 4 chisel set, which comes with a 25, a 20, a 15, and a 10 millimeter. And this set will get you started if you don't want to worry about buying individual chisels. A little 4 chisel set will get you started. Now, it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be a hardware one like I've got here. These happen to be the Lubin ones. You can buy them from the hardware store, they're going to work just as well. But I would recommend avoiding socket chisels. Just go for the normal chisels. They're going to cause you less problems starting out. So now that we've got a knife that we need to keep sharp and we've got chisels we need to keep sharp, we need some option of sharpening our tools. Now, I think the best option when you first start out is a cheap, inexpensive indigo stone or one of these double-sided oil stones. It'll get you started. These oil ones, these double-sided ones, tend to be already impregnated with oil. But if you do get ones that haven't had oil on them or aren't impregnated with the oil, and it should tell you, you can actually go ahead and use water on these to keep them cleaner than having oil everywhere. And along with that, a strop. Now, you could go buy a strop. I recommend saving your money, finding a scrap of leather, even if it's thinner than what I've got here. Stick it onto a bit of board. This is a piece of MDF, and this is a strop I made when I first started, and I'm still using it. A little bit of inexpensive honing compound that you can actually buy from places like your hardware stores, or you can get them from your dedicated woodworking stores, and you'll get the green one. You can actually buy the buffing compound that's for the buffing wheels as long as it's the green one, and that's what I've used here, and there you go, that will get you started. Now obviously a lot of you will have seen sandpaper. I've used sandpaper when I first started as well. I will leave the video to my complete sanding setup with sandpaper, my sharpening setup with sandpaper, sorry, and yeah, check that out if you're interested. But I think the best bang for your buck is just a cheap, inexpensive oil stone when you first start. One with a fine and a sort of mid-grit. So now we've got that out of the way, let's move on to what everyone loves to talk about, and that is hand planes. So I've got a few options here. Now, my recommendation is to get a dirty, old, rusty one like this and restore it yourself. You're going to learn how the plane works a lot better. You're going to be able to take it apart, put it together, and it's going to belong to you. It's going to be yours. You're going to fettle it. You're going to set it up. You're going to put quite a bit of time into getting it the way you like it and setting it up and rolling your corners and all that. And I think that is going to be your cheapest and best option. But we don't all have the time to do that. We might not be able to get a hold of them inexpensively. I pick these ones up quite regularly at the number 4 size, about $30 at garage sales and sale things and Gumtree, eBay, those sort of places. So if you want to go new, there are 2 options. The brand new Stanley Bailey. Now, I've been recommending this up until fairly recently because the price of these has gone through the roof, and now I recommend the Lubin hand plane. This happens to be the Lubin number 4, and surprisingly, before the price of these went up, these were a lot more expensive, but now these are about the same price in a lot of places. So I think if you do want to go new, check out the Lubin, or Quensheng is the other name that you'll see them for. In the US and Canada, I believe Wood River is another name for them. So they are going around, and they're made to a pretty good standard. And this one, I was blown away with the quality of it when I unboxed it. So I will leave videos to where I set up and use the original Stanley Bailey, the brand new one, and also the Lubin down below. So you can peruse them. If you can find a decent brand new one, you know, go for it. But Lubin as well. But obviously, I think your best bet is, and I honestly believe that this is the best way. It's how I learned a lot about hand planes and got familiar with them and got comfortable with them, and that was through breaking them down, restoring them, and setting them up to work. And I will leave some videos down below where I've done that a number of times and how to set up the chip breaker and all of that, so you'll find those links down below. Now, another thing that we talk about a lot is hand saws. Now, I know that you're probably going to be using hardware store bought timber that's already dimensioned on 4 sides, most likely, when you first start. And that goes along with the hand planes as well. That's why I didn't mention a rough removal there. And so you need some sort of a panel saw to cut your larger panels to length, even if that's not straight wood and it's just things like plywood. So you have 2 options that I think work probably the best. You've got your hardware, impulse hardened, can't sharpen them hardware saws. You can just grab them, get started, and go with them. They're not going to be 100% perfect, so you might want to have a little more leeway when sawing to your lines and that with one of these. The other option is something like this Spear & Jackson one here, which I just announced in a video just last week. And these come in the crosscut, which is probably what you're going to be doing a lot of if you're just using them for cutting your boards to length. If you're cutting them to width, the hardware saw is probably better, because the hardware saw is set as sort of a mid-range between rip and crosscut. These Spear & Jacksons come in a crosscut, so if you're using them for cutting plywood and just boards to length, one of these will get you started straight out. They're fairly sharp to start with, and you can use them straight out and also learn to sharpen them, obviously. And I do have some videos coming up which I'm going to leave down below when we get on to reprofiling these to a rip cut and whatnot. So that's just our basic hack the board to the size we want, hand plane it to get your dimensions. Next, we have joinery saws. Now, I have 3 options here with joinery saws. We have a large tenon saw, and unless you're going to be doing tenons, I don't think you need this one. It's a good price at about $90, $99. Next is the small tenon saw like this. So if you want to cut some small boards to length, do dovetailing, all that, one of these saws will work, but this one, once again, is crosscut, so it needs to be changed into a rip cut, and if you're not comfortable with that, this is probably not your best starter saw, although I'm going to have some videos coming up to show you how to do it, and it's not that difficult. And then comes in something like the gent saw. Now, this is lightweight, it's inexpensive. Most of these come in a rip cut, which means you can still cross cut with them and cut smaller boards to length, and you've probably seen in a number of my videos, if you've seen me for a while, that's what I've used. Now, these are around about 20, maybe 30 bucks if that, and you can buy hardware ones that are already impulse hardened, but you can't sharpen them. But I think going for one of these, and they're about the same price as the impulse hardware ones, except this is a great inexpensive saw to learn to sharpen as well, and it'll work fairly well out of the box. And I do plan to do some videos coming up on how you just do a quick basic sharpen on one of these when you get it out of the box, and so I'll leave that link down below when that video is done. So now we come to obviously something for driving and drilling holes. Now, I have a few options here. I have a modern option, and I have a vintage unplugged option. Now, I honestly think that the battery drill is invaluable in a hand tool shop. Charge your battery, it's cordless. You can use the corded versions if you want to save money, and I'm not saying that you should go out and buy one of the DeWalt ones. They're not a great beginner-friendly price. You can just get your basic hardware store battery drill, and that will get you started. And generally they've got pretty good replacement warranties and and so they're not really going to let you down for the amount you're probably going to be using them to start with. You can use the hand crank ones, but you've got to have quite sharp drill bits for these, I find, and they don't drive the larger drill bits very well because they get jammed and I find the chucks come loose. And so if you want to persist with a hand drill, go ahead. One of these Miller Falls sort of egg beater style you can't go wrong with. Problem is some of them are not very good. This is the number 2 one. They actually work really well. They have a good action on them, and yeah, I mean, if you do want to try and find one, a number 2 Miller's Fall, but you can pay quite a lot for a lot of these hand crank drills, and you do have some issues with having to keep them clamped when operating with them, and so it adds a few extra issues that you might not have considered. But the battery drill, I think, is quite invaluable. Now, along with that, you need a decent set of drill bits. Now, it doesn't have to be this one. This one happens to be an X-Torque set. It's a complete set. But this set I went for because I could get the replacement drill bits, because inevitably these smaller ones down here, you will end up snapping them, and then you don't have them in your kit. I've got a couple snapped here that I need to replace, and I know that I can go out and buy them, which is fantastic, and you're not left with a set that slowly gets destroyed along the way. Now, some of you will have some better ideas of drill kits and stuff, so do leave them down below to help everybody out. It'll be interesting to see what availability of decent quality, fairly inexpensive drill kits that are out there around the world, and please leave them down below to help everybody out. And along with that, if we're going to be driving screws, an inexpensive little driver kit like this one has the 3 sets of Phillips. It's got some Torx bits, the hex driver and square drive and a flat drive, and that was just 20 bucks on special for me, and so a little driver kit like that. And obviously the most important thing, the workbench. We don't really consider it a tool, but if you are getting started, a couple of sawhorses clamped together with a decent solid board on top will get you started. You just need a solid surface that's not going to move too much to get you started in some way to hold your boards vertically and horizontally, whether that's clamps, standard little F-clamps like this will get you started, and the ones from the hardware store will do the job to get you started. I don't think you really need to look any further than the F-clamps when you first start. You can get some of these style aluminium ones around the place. If you're here in Australia, Sydney Tools does sell this one, which was iron grip. I don't reckon too much on these. I know other YouTubers out there rave over them and recommend them, but they don't do a very good job in my opinion, and you're better off saving your money, maybe working with F-clamps for a little bit longer, and then getting a couple of better quality parallel clamps or something down the line. But clamps are something that everyone's always talking about, and I think F-clamps, because you're probably in most cases only working with something fairly small when you first start, so these F-clamps, and you can get them in long reach and short reach, and while some of them are more expensive than others, the cheap ones and the cheap kits will get you started. And if you look around sales and all of that, you can get kits of them, and that's up to you. But really, you're better off just getting the clamps that you need at the time you're using them, so you don't end up with this oversupply of tools like I have that I might not need, although I've built these tools up over a period of time. So I think that pretty much rounds this video out. So any of you out there that are not beginners, or some of you are beginners, and if you've got some recommendations for some of the tools that maybe I've missed here that you might want to include in the beginner kit, just the very, very basic, cheapest beginner kit, do leave them in the comments below. It'll be much appreciated to help everybody out. And so I'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now, guys.